What's your biggest retirement question? Whatever it is, you'll find answers here. It's time for Ease into Retirement.
It's time once again to ease into retirement with Tom Mosley, founder at Mosley Wealth Management, serving you here in Southern California. Tom's got 30 years of experience in the financial sector and a great team of all-star advisors ready to help you with that complimentary written retirement blueprint. All you got to do is call 855-526-1600 to get started today. That's 855-526-1600 to get started again with the team at Mosley Wealth Management. We got a great show lined up. We're going to dive into some good topics and have a good conversation with Tom as we always do. So let's get started. Tom, my friend, how are you this week?
I am doing great. Excited about this show. We've got some good information here and some good things that we think we can teach you and help you. But remember, you can learn and learn and learn. And we're going to talk about that in some of the segments that we do today. You can learn and learn and learn, but you've got to turn around and do in order for it really to work. So some of you've been sitting out there and you're faithful listeners. We appreciate that. I know that because I run into you all the time when you come to our events or when you come into the office. But, keep listening. Don't quit listening and don't quit learning, but start doing too. Give us a call. We'll help you. We'll get you on our schedule. We have 10 all-star advisors. All of them are fiduciaries, which means they don't work for a business that sells a product. They work for you. They do what's in your best interest when it comes to the investment side of the business. And that is what they're there to do. We have 5 offices all over Southern California, and I'm ready to go with the show, Mark.
All right, well, let's get into it. A fun fact, by the way, just going to kick it off with something fun. Did you know Abraham Lincoln was a licensed bartender?
Hey, that's pretty cool. He probably needed it in dealing with all the people because I remember I've read a lot about him, and he didn't just pick a cabinet that was all on his team. He picked a lot of guys from all kind of different ways. He was would have been an interesting person to meet and to get to know.
Yeah, I saw that as a fun fact. I was like, oh, that's kind of interesting. I wonder if he knew how to make an old-fashioned. Of course, back then, was it called an old-fashioned?
I don't know. It was probably the newfangled drink.
The newfangled fashion, right, exactly. All right, well, let's get into our conversation, Tom. We're going to start with personal training and financial planning. There are a lot of principles that kind of, mirror each other a little bit, right? So
it's like getting in shape financially and getting in shape physically.
Exactly. And we kind of want to do that a little bit as we're getting closer to retirement anyway. And you probably can't just read a book and learn everything you need to know. Now, you certainly can learn some things from reading a book, and that's a good idea. But I don't think reading 1 or 2 books is suddenly going to make you an expert.
When you sign up for Little League, when you're 5 years old, 6 years old, 7 years old, they don't give you a book. Maybe they give you a book with the rules, but they don't expect you to be able to even read the book. They expect you to what? Get out on the field and play. And a lot of people, think that I can just read a whole bunch of books. I can get all of this knowledge about financial services, about financial products, and they're consumed with knowledge. But like I said in the intro, they're paralyzed sometimes to doing anything because a book doesn't force you to take action. And now there's nothing wrong with reading the book and then trying to do that. But if I put you at shortstop and you've read 14 books on playing shortstop, but you've never been at shortstop, and that first ball, screaming ground ball, is hit toward you, you're probably going to duck and run, if you understand what I'm saying. Because
right.
It goes back to Mike Tyson's philosophy that everybody's got a plan until they get hit in the mouth. And you know how to play shortstop from reading a book until somebody hits you the ball really hard. So yeah, it's not just that. That knowledge has to be combined with action and with drive and determination. And that's the way it is physically if you're going to get in shape. And you're going to need to look. I've got on my wall by my bicycle, I've got a stationary bicycle, I've got a rower, and I've got a complete weight set. And I've got on my wall several different posters that tell me what to do. But Mark, I can look at those posters in my garage by my exercise equipment all day long. But until I get on that rower or I get on that bike or I pick up those weights and I start doing what's on the poster, nothing happens. Nothing happens.
Yeah, very good. Very true. Right. So, I mean, it's a great place to start, do some things, right? But you don't have that accountability from a book either. So kind of think about that a little bit. And you can try to do it on your own, Tom, but it's not always a good idea. I mean, the DIY movement in finance has been massive for a couple of years, but I think the accumulation side is certainly a lot easier than the preservation. And that's really what the retirement conversation is all about.
Yeah, one of my classes, I have this picture of all these guys walking up a mountain, these several guys, several ladies walking up a mountain. And I ask people, do you know what that mountain, the name of that mountain? And nobody does. And I come back and I say, I don't either. Here's what I do know. 83% of the people who die in mountain climbing die on the way down. Mm-hmm. They've already reached the top. Until you get to the top, you've got that drive, like you said, that accumulation phase.
Right.
It's fun. It's exciting. It's got a long time. There's some certainties. I know I'm going to retire sometime around 65 or so. But on the way down, you've already reached the pinnacle. You've already reached that, and you've got to change. I've had knee surgery several times, and the doctor always tells me, with walking, he says, be careful walking down hills, because walking downhill, if you think about it, puts more stress, more pressure, more weight on your knee because you're jarring it every time. You're stretching to go up, and you don't have as much of a cushion there of a shock absorber effect on your way up as you do on your way down. So you can tear your knee up going down faster than you can going up. You can ruin yourself on a mountain going down easier than you can going up. And financially, it's that preservation phase. And I've told people this, and I've said it on the show, Mark. When you get to retirement, everybody's concerned about their growth rate for 30 or 40 or 50 years. But when you get to retirement, it's your withdrawal rate. How much am I taking out because I potentially am going down with my resources? And the big question is, how long am I going to last? And number two, will my money last as long as I do? So those are the big things. And when I try to do even the weights in the yard, in the garage, when I try to do those on my own, and my wife might come out to grab something out of the freezer, and my wife is she used to be an underwriter for loans, so she's a stickler to everything being done exactly right. I can't even make the bed, Mark, the right way. Susan will remake the bed when I make the bed, okay? And Susan will look at me picking up weights and lifting weights, and she'll turn and she'll say, you're doing that wrong, okay? Because of what I end up doing when I'm by myself, when I'm a do-it-yourselfer, I end up cutting corners and not lifting weights even the right way. I have bad form, and that can lead to injury. It can lead to damage. It can lead to all kinds of things. And financially, it's the same way. If you're out there doing it yourself, you're doing it on your own because you read a book, okay, then you might end up doing the wrong way and hurting yourself in ways that you don't know. And you think, well, it's just a little bit different than the absolute right form. But that little bit of difference makes all the difference in the world. Physically when you're working out, but also financially when you're trying to work out and grow a mass that you're going to live off of for the rest of your life.
Well, Tom, you talked about your All-Stars earlier, and you mentioned the certifications. It matters. Is it the only thing?
No, not at all. I've got CPAs on my staff, that's certified financial planners. I've got one young man who's a honors graduate from Boston University, and they have an all-star program there. This young man is brilliant. I've got another CFP. I've got a couple of others that are working on their certified financial planning degree. I have an MBA from Pepperdine with a concentration in finance. Those are all certifications. I have a chartered financial consultant. And then I've got Chris Radford, who runs our registered investment advisory firm, and he's got so many letters behind his name, it looks like the alphabet just rearranged, Mark. And I mean, he's out there with all kind of things. But what I've found in 30 years, like you mentioned at the beginning of the program, of hiring people as we've built our practice up to almost 20 people now and 10 advisors, I've found that it's INTEGRITY. Integrity is what matters. Those letters are what matter far more than having a degree or a certification behind your name, because I've hired CFPs And I've had to go around with even the CFP board about, I hired this guy who had a CFP and he had absolutely no integrity with the client, no integrity with the people on the office staff, no integrity with me. I'd rather have somebody who's going to tell me the truth and do their best and be knowledgeable than somebody who has all the certifications. Mark, some people are good at school, if you understand what I'm saying.
Yeah.
And they're not good in real life. There's an old, and I've got 2 daughters who are teachers. There's an old saying that them that can do and then them that can't teach. You know what I mean sometimes. And don't get upset with me, all your teachers out there, because sometimes in our field, you go for another certification and sometimes you've got to have that trust of the people, and that integrity is what matters.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I totally agree with you. And, some people are just better at learning in different ways and so on and so forth. So it's about finding that also that, I guess, that relatability that works for you, right? So,
well, you know what, Mark?
Yeah.
It's life experience too, because like some people got in the business. If you're working with somebody who got in the business after 2009, they don't know what it's like to have a 54% downturn like we did for 18 months from the end of 2007 to the beginning of 2009. And they don't know what it's like to see the market go down almost 50% from the January 1st of 2000 to January 1st of 2003. They don't understand that. They don't know what to do. They panic because they've never been there. It's like a football team. It's like anything else. It's never been under stress. They don't know what it's like to go through the .com boom or the housing boom and then to see it all blow up in their face. Those are things that 30 years of doing this, Chris Radford's been over 30 years, my person who runs the registered investment advisory firm, we've all been through that before. So, the Arabs have a saying that all sunshine makes a desert. And if you're dealing with somebody that's dealing with your money and they've been dealing with money only since 2009, they don't understand a real storm. They don't know what it's like to go through a financial hurricane. So those are really things that are important. Will we have another financial hurricane? That's not the question. When will we have another financial hurricane? And are you prepared for that financial hurricane? That's what makes the difference.
Yeah, well, that's a great point. Exactly. So it's a journey, right? At the end of the day, Tom, it's a journey, not an overnight success. Same thing with, we're talking about fitness as well as finance, right? You're not going to get ripped overnight because you do one workout, right? So you're not going to get your finances fixed just because you do one item.
I remember this guy in Odessa, Texas, when I was young. I was a youth director in a church there, and I remember he and I both went to this gym. One of the guys in our church bought a gym, and he offered for us to go before hours. You say, why before hours? Because it was a ladies' gym, okay? And so we had to get in there and get out before the ladies got there. So we got there at like 5:30 in the morning, worked out for about an hour, and as we were leaving, he was opening the door for all the ladies. And I remember this guy, I say, we got there one day, because Cletus showed up one day, and I remember the next day he said, I'm not going to work out anymore. I said, why? He said, because I wanted to get in shape. And he said, I'm really, really sore today, And so you've got to go through the journey. It's, are we there yet? Are we there yet? Are we there yet? Generally, you're not there yet as you're accumulating, and you've got to build this over a period of time. Financially, it's the same way. You got to build your financial life over a period of time. Once you get to retirement, then you've got to make sure that time lasts and lasts and lasts as long as you do.
Well, you got to make sure you do the things the right way when it comes to our health, when it comes to our finance. So if you need some help on the financial side, reach out to Tom and his team of all-star advisors at Mosley Wealth Management. I can say that, right? Mosley Wealth Management, 855-526-1600. Get yourself onto the calendar for that consultation and review. 855-526-1600 for your complimentary written retirement blueprint. There's more to come today on the show, so stick around. We'll be right back here on Ease into Retirement.
Picture this. You've worked 30 or 40 years, and suddenly you're staring at your nest egg wondering, will this really last? You're not alone. With your complimentary retirement blueprint, you'll see where you stand, understand the biggest risk you face, and learn what steps to take next. It's about clarity, it's about confidence, and it starts with one call. Dial 855-526-1600 right now for your free retirement blueprint. 855-526-1600.
Back here for more of Ease into Retirement with Tom Mosley, founder at Mosley Wealth Management, serving you here in Southern California with his team of all-star advisors and amazing support staff, helping create that seamless experience for their clients. If you'd like to get onto the calendar and come in for a consultation, you could visit with them in Anaheim, Arcadia, Encino, Ontario, San Diego, or of course on Zoom if you'd like as well. But you got to call the number and let them know you need some help. 855-526-1600 for that complimentary written retirement blueprint. Again, at 855-526-1600 to get started today. Because, Tom, you've made it to retirement or you're getting close. Now, let's not screw it up. That's what we're going to talk about this section of the show. Because it's a big gear change to get to the retirement days.
You know what? It's almost like going from drive to reverse in the car. Now, here's what I mean. When you are in the accumulation phase. Let me give you one, for instance. If the market is down 50%, like we mentioned earlier, in 2008 and around 2000 to 2002, when it's down 50%, if I'm in the accumulation phase, and I've a lot of my normal retiree clients who refer me to their 20, 25, 30-year-old children who are just getting started. Mm-hmm. And it's not unusual, Mark, for me to get a call. And if you're listening and your parents are listening to the radio show and you're compelled to hear it in the car or wherever you're at right now, and when the market goes down, if you're 25, 30, 35 years old, that is a great buying opportunity. Because always in history up until now, I can't promise anything for the future. Everybody listening to that from compliance? Okay. But the market has always come back when it has gone down. So if you're sitting there and the market is down 50%, that would be like you're looking to buy a house and you find out legitimately that all the housing prices have just gone down 50%. That would be a great time to buy a house. That would be a great time to get into one. But now let's flip that. Let's get into retirement. And instead of accumulating, you're trying to preserve. It's the decumulation phase, if you want to look at it that way. And you're actually drawing money. You're self-employed because you're drawing money from that pile of money that you've made, that you're there. So you start taking money out. Now let's let the market go down 50%. And what are you doing? Oh, I'm not buying anymore. I'm actually taking money out of my retirement. Well, to get the same amount of money to pay for the mortgage, to pay for the car, to pay for groceries, to pay for everything else, to get that same amount of money, I've got to take out twice as much. And so this is one thing that bothers me about financial planners who hold themselves out as retirement professionals or retirement specialists. They're not. Even their company is called like blank investments. You fill in the name. They're an investment company. They're not, and some of them even proudly claim that we don't sell commissionable products. Guess what? Especially this time of year, my clients are asking me about Medicare. And we can provide Medicare advice, consultation, and signups for them because we do sell commissionable products. People ask me this week about long-term care. Well, if I prided myself in not being able to sell a commissionable product, I couldn't sell them long-term care. And, I could sell them some investment variation, but it's not. A long-term care policy is a commissionable product. A little life insurance policy to cover burial, to cover that end-of-life money that it's going to take care of you. A lot of people see the value in that. That's a commissionable product. So you get what I'm saying. So it's exactly opposite when you get into retirement. Now, once you get to retirement, it's really important that, like you said, Mark, you don't screw it up. Most people have more money, especially if you're working with just an investment person who's got a hope strategy. A hope strategy is put it all in the market. Let's invest it all and hope that it works.
Yeah.
Hope that it lasts. There's no guarantee there because they don't want to insure things like your health, your long-term care, your life, your income. And yes, you can insure your income with a pension-like program that'll pay you guaranteed income for the rest of your life. Talk to us about it. It's a guaranteed insurance product. You can pass that risk of living too long over to an insurance company where you say, okay, you guys have to pay me for the rest of my life, a monthly income for the rest of my life. But when you get to that point, you better have a plan in place. And when you enter into retirement, That's not the time to go make a bunch of sudden decisions. It's a transition time. You better have been working. Let's pull all of this together. You better have been working developing a retirement blueprint is what we call it. You better have been working with a real retirement professional who understands that transition from accumulation to decumulation, from accumulation to preservation, where you want to make sure your money lasts. Number one fear of people 55 years of age and older in America is not dying, is running out of money before you die. So you've got to be careful, especially if you go make a lot of changes. You need to 2, 3, 4 years, 5 years. This is where you need to reach out to us or some real retirement professional. Put that plan together, because once you retire, you don't need to go start making a lot of sudden decisions. If you do sometimes, it's like a ready, fire, aim. You make some real big mistakes.
Yeah.
And most people, Mark, have enough money to win the retirement game when they retire, but they make mistakes. The Atlanta Falcons about 7 years ago were way ahead in the Super Bowl. 21 points ahead, 19 in the fourth quarter, and they still lost the game because they kept making foolish mistakes. So don't make those sudden decisions. Get a plan in place well before you're going to retire. That's why what we call it is, and I'm coming out with a book. It's already been approved and they're printing it right now. And by listening to the show, you'll get a free copy of it if you just ask us for one. We even call it Ease into Retirement. It should be easy just to slip right into retirement. And it's not the kind of thing where you need to go make a bunch of sudden decisions right when you get there.
Well, if you want to get a copy and get a chat going, just call 855-526-1600. 855-526-1600. Yeah, Tom, don't make any sudden decisions, and don't jump into things you don't really understand either.
Oh, my goodness. Your phone starts ringing off the wall when you hit 65. They'll call you this fall. They're going to call you for Medicare. Be careful. You might have a great Medicare Advantage or a great Medicare supplement program, and they're going to call you. I got 7 calls yesterday from people that are trying to sell me Medicare Advantage or Medicare supplement. Be very careful, because if you say the wrong thing on that phone call, sometimes you disenroll yourself from the plan you love and you enroll in their plan that might not be as good. Yeah. So be careful what you say, and just understand that people, you are prey, and that's not P-R-A-Y, that's P-R-E-Y. You are prey for a lot of people out there who are trying to scam you or move you or change you. People are pushing all kinds of products, all kinds of investments. Come on, you didn't get where you're at unless you just inherited a ton of money. You didn't get where you're at by accident. Nobody ends up on the top of Mount Everest by saying, oh, I don't know, I was just up here taking a walk. Nobody does that, okay? You got there on purpose, carefully putting your savings together. Treat your life savings like it took you a lifetime to build it. But if you make a wrong decision trying to get rich quick into something you don't understand, every investment you get into, you don't have to know how that watch is made, but you better know how it runs, and you better know how it works and how to tell the time. And so you need to understand the what of the investment that you're getting into, and why am I getting into that particular investment. This is where you need that person, like we talked about earlier in a segment. We talked about working with a person that doesn't necessarily have all kind of letters behind their name, but they've got integrity. They're going to explain it to you so you can understand it. Work with somebody like that.
Well, and Tom, you have an actual plan, right? There's so many moving parts to retirement. We talked about accumulation earlier. You talked about working with a professional, and those things are super important, because there's so many. You pull one lever and activates like 9 other things in retirement, which is a little different, obviously, than just the accumulation phase.
I've got a kid who used to be in my youth department, and he was the first pilot to take a plane off. It took off from Newark Airport in New Jersey right after 9/11. He was the very first one. And he was the pilot of the very first plane that got back in the air. You remember, Mark, we were down for about 4 days where nobody flew. And Roger took off in the air. Why do I mention Roger? Because I want you guys all to pray for Roger. He just had a recurrence of cancer, and he's like up in his 60s, even though he used to be in my youth department. Makes me feel real old. You know what I'm talking about? But Roger flew that plane. I'll guarantee you, I never even asked Roger this, but I'll guarantee you when Roger took off in that plane back in September of 2001, I'll guarantee you he didn't say, well, let's just get the plane up in the air and we'll make a plan once we get up there. I'll guarantee you no pilot does that. What do? They file a flight plan. They file a plan. I read recently where Amelia Earhart's plane had been possibly located, but from some of the imagery from satellite, and they're going to go in and look for it. And the reason they could find it, and they suspect they found it, is because they followed the flight plan that she filed as to where she was planning on going. Everybody has a plan if you're going to have a really good chance of getting there. You need to have an actual plan. How do you get that? You work with a professional. You work with a professional who's not just an investment counselor, who's a hope counselor. Hey, let's put it in here and hope it all works, hope it lasts. Or they do a Monte Carlo simulation and they don't show you the last 3 pages that shows that you've got an 83% chance that you won't run out of money. An 83% chance that you won't run out of money means you've got a 17% chance that you will run out of money. I don't want to take that. I don't want a spouse that's 83% faithful. I want one that's 100% faithful, just like my retirement plan. I want to know for sure that I've got money that's going to last as long as I do. That's what an actual plan will do. Lots of moving parts. And you need to start that plan well before you get to retirement so that you can ease into retirement just exactly like we say and like we lead people to do.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's why getting together with a qualified professional who's doing this for, hundreds or thousands of families is important. So reach out to Tom and his team of all-star advisors and have that consultation and review today. Get that complimentary written retirement blueprint at 855-526-1600. 855-526-1600 to get started today. This is Ease into Retirement, and there's more to come after this, so don't go anywhere. Back here for more of Ease into Retirement with Tom Mosley, founder at Mosley Wealth Management, serving you here in Southern California with 30-plus years of experience in the financial sector and a team of all-star advisors here to help you with that complimentary written retirement blueprint. 855-526-1600 is the number to call to get yourself started for a consultation and review, and you should, because October is Financial Planning Month. It's worthwhile to ask the questions. That's a great place to start. When you guys are doing these events, I'm sure there's time periods when folks can ask their own questions as well, and that's also what you can do when you come in for a consultation, right? You got to ask the questions that are important to you.
Absolutely. And another key, Mark, is we're sitting here in the first part of the last quarter, and there are a lot of people who've been saying, well, I'm gonna get that done. I'm going to do that. I've been listening to the show, need to do that. Maybe you're listening today for the first time and you say, I need to get my financial act in gear. And I want to tell you something. If you make a call today, we would be able to work with you. And by the end of this year, before 2025 is over, man, you could have that job done. You could have all of your financial plan for retirement. We call it the Mosley Wealth Management Retirement Blueprint. All of that could be in place, and you could have that done before you get to next year. But so many people say, holidays are coming. I think I'll wait till after the holidays. After the holidays, you'll say, the Super Bowl's coming. I'll wait till after the Super Bowl. And then after the Super Bowl, you say, well, Easter's coming and spring break. I'll wait till after then. And, you just keep putting it off, just like you've done for the last period of time. Call today. We can have your plan in place. We have to work with you to put it together. Don't call and ask for one, because we have to know where you are to know how we're going to get you where you want to go. So call today, set up an appointment with one of our advisors. You can leave your message. We don't have our people here all the time on the weekend. What we do, we'll call you back on Monday or Tuesday. We'll set up an appointment. I have 2 schedulers. That's all they do. They don't bug people. They'll call you back and they'll set up a time around your schedule so we can get together and we can get it done in 2025 before you get to the new year.
What do you think about writing out things, Tom? Do you think about visualizing is great, but what do you think about kind of writing out your financial dreams or really anything in life, right? If it's not written down, maybe it doesn't really exist. Maybe it helps you manifest it. I don't know. What do you think?
I wish I knew the exact numbers. I'm reaching in the back of my memory, and I believe Brian Tracy in his book Goals, in the very first few chapters, references a Harvard study, and it was amazing, Mark. They took a group that graduated from Harvard, pretty good school, okay? I'd say it ranks up there. And 3% of the people, when they graduated, had defined, written out goals. And they went back after 15, 20 years, and they interviewed all the people who had graduated, and they found out that very small percentage, I believe it was 3%, had accomplished 97% of what the entire class had accomplished because they had defined, written goals. And when you go on a trip, you have to have a termination in mind. You have to have, this is where we're going in mind. I've got one uncle one time that sort of in the back of my mind, Uncle John showed up at our house one time and we said, where were you headed? He said, well, we just decided to take a ride and we ended up here. And he lived 300 miles away from us. You know what I'm saying? So I guess there are people who go places without a destination in mind. If you're going to go to retirement, especially now, you're going to take that trip, you're going to have to sit down and say, hey, what's your dream for retirement? What are your goals? Where do you want to go? And that may be literally with a trip or with a bucket list is what people call it. If you're in your 40s, you may say, I want to retire early. Well, are you operating on a hope strategy? I just hope I've accumulated enough and I'll just pull the string and hope that it is enough. Or do you have a written plan that says, if I retire here, and put a line in your life and say, if I retire at 55, will I have enough money? Will I have enough money to bridge myself till I get to Social Security, bridge myself till I get to Medicare to cover my medical expenses, cover myself for all of that loss of income, which those last 10 years from 55 to 65, that's one of the highest earning years most people have. So will I have enough money to do all of that? You've got to write out your financial dream. You've got to write out what it looks like and then talk through that with somebody who's helped thousands of people plan on getting there, and maybe even they're getting there themselves. So if it's not written down, it's just a hope. It's just a dream. It never really becomes a plan until you've got it written down. And you can't do this in isolation if you're married. You've got to talk to your spouse about it because he or she may have entirely different goals and dreams and plans than you do. Yeah. I think that's one reason there's so many people that are getting what's called gray divorce, because they're in their 60s and they're getting divorces en masse now because I've only got 20 years left. I want to live it with somebody who shares my dreams. So write out those dreams, talk through them, even talk through them with your kids, not so that they can be there to take care of you, but just so they know what your dreams are. You've got to write those down.
Yeah, for sure. And so part of financial, planning month here in October, as we're having this conversation, is maybe, Tom, challenge yourself, right? Challenge yourself to do a little something different. I know oftentimes people will kind of do back of the napkin, planning, say, well, we spend $5,000 a month, so we get to retirement, we can spend $5,000 a month, we'll be fine. And they maybe shortfall that when they're actually maybe spending $7, like a month or something like that. So challenge yourself, maybe try that before you get into retirement, see if you can live off that, or whatever the case might be, whatever your goal is or whatever you're trying to accomplish. If it's something different than you've been doing, it may be worthwhile to, attempt it. Does that make sense? Does that seem fair?
No, it makes so much sense. It works in real life. Now, here's the problem, though, Mark. Most people say, well, when I retire, I'll quit eating out. When I retire, I'll stay off of Amazon. When I retire, I won't be spending as much money. That is such a wrong conception of retirement. Most people spend 85 to 89% in retirement of what they spend in real life before they retire. So you've got to challenge yourself. If that's going to, now you got to know what your budget needs to be to make it work. And that's where the planning comes in that we just talked about. But then you might have to challenge yourself. Hey, if we're really going to be able to retire early, Can we live on that budget? Can we back off of eating out? Can we back off of buying everything we want? Can we focus on what we're doing? I liken it back to what we were talking about earlier about when you're trying to get in shape physically. When I'm really on my echelon and I'm really on my rower and I'm really working out with weights, it doesn't just impact me in the garage, Mark. It impacts me when I go into the kitchen. Because when I go into the kitchen and I've just busted myself out there in the garage working out, I don't want to go eat something that's going to put all of that weight right back on and all those calories right back in. I want to be and bring my life into line in all areas when I start disciplining one area. And that's what challenging yourself will do.
Yeah. And it's important, I think, right, to just kind of do some of these different steps as you're working your way to and through these conversation pieces, Tom. And then obviously Financial Planning Month, let's take a little financial inventory. And I'm sure that's something that you guys help guide potential clients on, right? When they reach out to the phone number, they listen to the radio show, and they say, hey, we're thinking about coming in. You guys probably send out some sort of little onboarding thing, or it kind of help people kind of pull together the things they have.
Yeah, and some people say, even if they come in for the first time and they say, even if just getting all this stuff together was all we ever do, that really helped us,
I've heard that, yeah.
Pulled it. I want to talk to you like a coach would talk to you, and that's what I see myself. It's your money. You can do what you want to with it.
Right.
But as your coach, when you get on the field, you do whatever you want to do. But I want to just let's talk big boy pants here, okay, and big girl pants, all right? Get your act together. Some of you are dreaming of retirement, but it is only a dream. It is not a plan, and it's not a focus. It's not something you're really working for. Gather your stuff together, organize it, collect it. Come in and talk to us. You say, well, I don't like you. Okay, that's fine. Not everybody likes me. My wife doesn't even like me on some days, okay?
You too? I'm in that same boat. Yeah,
exactly. And she doesn't, like me on some days, and I don't like her on some days. That's just life, okay? But forget that. Let's grow up. It's time to get your act together. And the best thing some of you can do is get the phone, punch in the numbers that Mark's going to give you, get on our calendar and say, I want to get on the calendar of one of the advisors so I can build a financial plan. We will even build that plan for you and then let you decide whether you want to work for us or not. That's how confident we are of the value that we bring from just being able to sit down and talk to you. But the one thing we cannot do for you is want it more than you do. And wanting it more than you do, if you say, well, no, I really want it, well, pick up the phone and call us.
And that number is 855-526-1600, 855-526-1600 to get started with a consultation and a review. Or if you want to come out to one of the events, let them know when you call, or just go to the website where you can also reserve some time as well. And you can go check that out at MosleyWealthManagement.com. That's MosleyWealthManagement.com, MOSLEY, wealthmanagement.com. We'll be back with more right after this.
For nearly 30 years, we've helped families across Southern California ease into retirement. EASE stands for 4 simple steps. Envision the retirement you want, analyze where you stand today, strategize with a written retirement blueprint, and finally, evaluate along the way, so your plan adjusts as life does. This is about more than numbers. It's about confidence, knowing you have a roadmap for the years ahead. Take the first step today. Call us at 855-526-1600 to request your complimentary retirement blueprint. And let's help you ease into retirement. 855-526-1600.
Back here on Ease Into Retirement, going to wrap up the program with some email questions from around the area from folks just like yourself. If you've got questions and concerns, then get yourself onto the calendar, have a consultation with Tom's team of all-star advisors by simply calling 855-526-1600. They got 5 locations to help you out, so all you got to do is let them know that you want to have some time on the calendar, and they'll get you set up for a time that's convenient for you, whether that's Anaheim, Arcadia, Encino, Ontario, San Diego, or just online on Zoom. Call the number and get started today. 855-526-1600. Again, 855-526-1600, or visit them online at MosleyWealthManagement.com. And we're going to we're going to try to answer some of these questions that we get in. Tom tries to dive into these. And obviously we're talking in generalities, but at the same time, if it's happening to one person, it may be happening to a lot of others. And if that's you, well, reach out and let them know you want to talk specifics and dive into those chats. So Tom, let's get started here in the Irvine area with Tim. It's kind of a big one here, so hang with me. He says, my wife and I are in our mid-50s and up until now have both worked full-time, even while raising the 2 kids. In the past 5 years, we've both been working from home, but now our jobs are taking away some of that flexibility and requiring us to return back to the office. The wife is considering stepping away from the workforce and simply retiring at the age of 56. I don't think it's going to be a problem with us financially, but I'm curious to know what kinds of things we should consider when dealing with early retirement.
Well, there's several things, Tim. First of all, congratulations on being able to even think about this in your middle 50s, because that means you've done really super well. Second thing is, for all of you out there who are working from home, all of the leanings of the big companies right now, it seems to be leaning toward, even in a good time economically, all of the leanings are, hey, let's get our people back into the office. And office space is headed that way, being that way, looking that way. Many of the companies are requesting and some are even requiring people to come back in. So if you're still working from home, don't be surprised when you get the notice, okay? The notice that you might have to come back in. We see that in a lot of our people who are still working. And like you, Tim, a lot of people are making decision. They're saying, hey, I just enjoy being at home and doing the thing. So I'm either going to just stop and retire, or some people are saying, I'm going to seek out other work where I can either work for somebody else or I can work from home and do something on my own, maybe start my own business. Now, let's talk about you and your wife, though. Your wife is considering stepping away, retiring at 56. You think that wouldn't be a problem for you financially. It might be a problem for you relationally. And here's what I mean, and I'm very serious about this. So many times when a couple has always worked together outside the home, in other words, they hadn't been together working, but they've been both at the same time working outside the home. When one quits, both quit. Now, here's what I mean. One of you is going to have to go to work and see the other one there at home, see the freedom they have, see the luxury of being able to do whatever they want to with their own time. I'm just talking practical stuff here. This is not financial. But what it's going to do is it's going to put pressure on you to maybe say, maybe I should go ahead and retire. Maybe I should get out of work. Maybe I should get a more flexible job. Because the younger one, you're going to retire in the go-go years, and you're going to want to go. You're going to want to travel. You're going to want to do things. But that old guy who's still working is going to be the ball and chain, so to speak, and they're not going to be able to just take off and go whenever they want, wherever they want. So you got to think about what it's going to do to the relationship when one works outside the home and one doesn't. Don't think I'm crazy. If I could divulge names, which I never would, I can give you dozens of couples that have fought this battle. So be careful. The financial aspect is something that, we can help you with by building that retirement blueprint. You might call it building a ready or not blueprint. A ready or not blueprint means, am I ready for retirement or not? Or am I ready for one of us to retire or not? We can build that kind of blueprint. Many times we build multiple blueprints with people, and actually that blueprint keeps evolving through the years as people go through retirement. We build many types of blueprints for people so that we can make sure and keep them on track. You make a plan, but that plan has to be, it's a dynamic, it's not a static, it has to change as your life changes through the years. So Tim, come in and talk to us, and we'll talk you through some of the, not just the financial aspects, but the emotional aspects of one being at home and one still working.
Yeah, some great points right there, Tom, because it certainly can change some of those dynamics as well. So 855-526-1600. Thanks, Tim, for listening to the show. We certainly appreciate it. Let's jump over to the Pasadena area with Barry. And he says, I enjoyed decades of a good, fulfilling career, Tom. Now I see my sons struggling to make ends meet. Should I give them an early portion of their eventual inheritance, or is it better just let them figure it out on their own? So gifting, inheritance, what's some things to think about if you want to maybe do this early?
Well, you got to ask yourself a question: am I done raising my kids? Because they're still, they may have hit some hard times. There may be issues that they're having to deal with that's causing them still to not be able to figure it out on their own. The question I would really caution you on, Barry, is will giving them money help them figure it out? Or will it just be like taking an aspirin for cancer? I mean, taking an Advil for cancer might relieve some of the pain, but it's not going to relieve the problem. So, what will help the sons grow up? Because here's the point. One day they're going to have to live without you, Barry, and one day they're not going to have you there to meet all of their needs and help all of their needs. Now, all of that being said, you can still give your kids money. If that's what you want to hear, I will tell you, you can still give your kids money. Many people do, but you got to ask yourself internally, am I just, making the problem worse because I'm not allowing them to grow up? Or am I really doing something that's going to help them? I've always said before, if you're going to give your kids money and if they're in debt financially, then you need to pay off a credit card and have them cut up that credit card. Or if you're going to help them with a house, maybe put the down payment on the house. Be careful just writing a check, because if they've made wrong decisions, if that's the reason they hadn't been able to figure it out on their own, you're giving them part of your inheritance. Might just extend their irresponsibility. I'll just be very frank. By the way, Mark, I'm not here to win friends and influence people when I answer these questions, if you understand what I'm saying. I have to tell you the truth of what I've seen, and it's real easy for me to tell you these things because I'm not emotionally involved and emotionally attached.
Right.
They're your kids. So I probably give my kids more, but I've got kids right now that when I try to give them something, they refuse it most of the time. And when I give them something, they want to make it a loan and pay me back. I just got paid back a big chunk of money from one of my kids this week. And I was like, no, you don't have to pay me back, but they want to because they have figured it out on their own. And they hadn't always been that way. I've had to be tough with them on some cases. So that's what I would encourage you to do. And here's the one thing I always say for a situation like yours, Barry. Make sure in giving them a golden egg, you're not killing your own financial plan, which is the goose that's laying the family golden eggs. You're the one that's producing. You're the one that's considering giving. So make sure that if you give them, you're not putting yourself in a position, Barry, where you're going to be destitute yourself down the road.
All right, we're up against the clock here, but we got one more we want to try to squeeze in. So Lori in La Mesa says, I'm an empty nester, Tom, and considering going back to school to become a teacher. The husband's income is always provided for us, but I'm in a place where I miss interacting with my own kids and feel a void in my days. Ultimately, though, it won't really make a whole lot of money, and you're going to probably have to spend some, I would assume, to go back to school. So she's wondering, is it a bad financial move to basically start up another career?
Lori, find out what your purpose is, because your purpose is more important than money. If being with kids right now and having fulfillment of being a teacher, I know several teachers that are retiring right now and they're in their 60s. And oh my goodness, they only paid in for 18 years to STRS, which is the Teachers Retirement Fund. The key is having a plan. And Lori, then you can know whether you can divert from it to fulfill your purpose or to do something else that comes up in your life. The key to this whole show that we've talked about today is have a plan in place so when life gets in the way or you want to make other options, you know whether you can do it or not.
And you can do so by reaching out to Tom and his team and having a conversation and getting a plan in place, getting a strategy, getting a complimentary written retirement blueprint at 855-526-1600. That's 855-526-1600 to get started today. As always, we appreciate your time here on Ease into Retirement and Tom's advice and his wisdom as it comes to these conversation pieces. So again, reach out to the team and get started. And we'll see you next time here on Ease into Retirement with Tom Mosley. 855-526-1600.
𝗙𝗡 Wealth Management is an independent financial services firm that utilizes a variety of investment and insurance products. Investment advisory services offered by duly registered individuals through 𝗙𝗡 Wealth Management, Inc., MWM. 𝗙𝗡 Insurance and Financial Services are affiliated companies by common ownership. License number 0K76766. Investing involves risk, including the potential loss of principal, and any references to protection, safety, or lifetime income generally refer to fixed insurance products, never securities or investments. Insurance guarantees are backed by the financial strength and claims-paying abilities of the issuing carrier. This radio show is intended for informational purposes only. It is not intended to be used as the sole basis for financial decisions, nor should it be construed as advice designed to meet the particular needs of an individual situation. 𝗙𝗡 Wealth Management, Inc. is not permitted to offer, and no statement made during this show shall constitute tax or legal advice. Our firm is not affiliated with or endorsed by the U.S. government or any governmental agency. The information and opinions contained herein, provided by third parties, have been obtained from sources believed to be reliable, but accuracy and completeness cannot be guaranteed by 𝗙𝗡 Wealth Management. This radio show is a paid placement.